Hello, and thank you for joining me at Spooky Reviews. I'm the Ghostess, and I absolutely love Halloween, which I'm sure is a surprise to no one. Not only one of my favorite times of year, it's also one of my favorite horror movies. So, in honor of the season, I decided to update my 13-minute recap of the entire franchise so that it now includes the entire franchise. Let's begin now. Halloween, 1978. Teenage Judith Myers shirks her babysitting responsibilities to have incredibly brief sex before being stabbed by her 6-year-old brother Michael. 15 years later, Michael escapes his mental hospital, stealing the car of his psychologist, Dr. Loomis, and heads off to his home in Haddonfield, Illinois. On the way, he kills a mechanic, steals his jumpsuit, shoplifts a bleached William Shatner mask, and digs up his sister's gravestone. Laurie Strode, the local realtor's daughter, catches Michael's attention while dropping off keys at the Myers home. He proceeds to stalk, and then stalk some more, while Laurie hangs out with her friends, Annie, the sheriff's daughter and terrible babysitter, and the girl who says totally every other word. Annie dumps her babysitting gig on Laurie so she can go screw her boyfriend, but Michael's waiting in the car for her and she gets got. Totally and her glasses boyfriend find a bed to screw in, and after another round of the world's fastest sex, Michael pins Glasses to the wall, before Pigtails totally gets strangled with a phone cord. Laurie checks in on her absent friends, only to discover Michael's murder tableau. Laurie flees back to her babysitting house with Michael in hot pursuit. She stabs him with a knitting needle, and then a coat hanger, and then his own knife, but she just can't keep the masked man down. Right before Laurie gets got for reals, Dr. Loomis arrives, having followed Michael's murder trail to Laurie's whereabouts, and shoots Michael out the window. But in only a matter of seconds, Michael is back on his feet and ready for round 2. Halloween 2, 1981. Picking up where we left off, Michael is on the loose and Laurie is headed into the hospital. Double M steals a butcher knife and makes a ham sandwich, stabs a lady, but that doesn't really quench his murder thirst, so he heads off to the world's emptiest hospital, staffed solely by people with no peripheral vision. Inattentive security guard gets a hammer to the dome, stoner EMT gets strangled, horny nurse is turned into sexy soup, drunken doctor and not so helpful aide get air injections, head nurse is drained of her blood, and competent nurse is scalpeled in the back. Meanwhile, Laurie gets her flirt on with an EMT and has retcon flashbacks revealing that Michael is her long-lost brother. Dr. Loomis mostly causes chaos in the background, resulting in a trick-or-treating red herring getting exploded by a cop car, and he pulls a gun on a cop so he'll drive him to Laurie. Laurie hides from Michael, but his slow and steady wins the race eventually. Nothing seems to stop him. Not panes of glass, not Loomis emptying a revolver into his chest, not even getting his eyes shot out, which somehow blinds him instead of painting the walls with his brains. But Loomis thinks fast, filling the room with gas and heroically blowing up the hospital. Michael tries to walk off the explosion before falling down, seemingly dead. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. John Carpenter wanted an anthology series, but everyone loved the Psycho Stalker so much he relented into making one sequel before swiftly switching gears into a standalone science fiction fantasy. We follow a doctor trying to solve the mysterious murder of a toy store owner who spouted insanity until an assassin smothered him and blew himself up in a car. The man's daughter helps the doctor follow clues to a mask manufacturing plant where a strange Irishman and his crew of melting robot assistants are using pieces of Stonehenge to imbue Halloween masks with murderous magic that turns people wearing it into a pile of spiders and snakes when forced to watch a hypnotic TV show. Even though they thwart the mask makers and escape, the girl has been swapped with a goobot, and the doctor can't stop the broadcast in time, so presumably a lot of kids get got. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. After realizing nobody wants to watch an anthology series featuring an Irish-bashing movie about magical murder masks, the franchise returns to Smith Grove Sanitarium just in time to see Mikey Mike transferred to a new location, allowing him to kill his way to freedom and a new mechanic's jumpsuit. He has a brief standoff with Loomis before blowing up the gas station and heading off to Haddonfield. Laurie Strode's now orphaned daughter Jamie runs into her uncle while shopping for a Halloween costume, and he stalks her and her foster sister while they trick-or-treat. Mickey Mack kills a dog, electrocutes a man into a town blackout, and kills an entire police station off screen. A local mob get their pitchfork and shotgun on, who accidentally kill an innocent bystander, mistaking him for the masked monster. While the main characters hole up at the sheriff's house, but Myo Myers kills the sheriff, skewers his daughter with a shotgun, face smushes the foster sister's cheating boyfriend, and chases the foster sisters out to the boondocks. And the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a knife is a redneck mob with a bunch of guns. After seeing her uncle get shot into a shallow grave, Jamie returns home excited to continue on his legacy, while Dr. Loomis cries out in horror. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. After maiming her stepmother, Jamie became mute and psychically linked to her uncle and got shipped off to an elementary school sanitarium. Mac returns, killing the kindly groundskeeper who nursed him back to health, and heads off to Haddonfield again. He scissors foster sister, but not in the sexy way, and begins stalking her friends, clawing, pitchforking, and stabbing his way through a series of side characters designed to build up the body count, including comic relief cops and partying teens. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis panics, while Jamie has visions of Michael's murders, before she escapes the baby asylum, and Loomis uses her as bait to goad Mac Daddy into a trap. Mick-Mac murks cops while Jamie plays keep away in the walls, eventually meeting up in the attic for a demasking, shedding one single tear, and a final round of mania before Loomis fights back, using tranquilizers and a plank of wood to subdue the savage brute. But after being incarcerated, he's kidnapped by mysterious men who murder the cops and leave Jamie more traumatized than ever. Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. A now 15-year-old Jamie escapes a cult and stashes her freshly birthed baby at the bus station before Magic Mike either kills her in a farm drill or later at the hospital by a man in black, depending which cut you see. Tommy Doyle, who Laurie babysat one fateful Halloween, has grown up to become Ant-Man circa Clueless, whose obsession with the Big Mac causes him to stumble onto the bus station baby. A family of Strodes now reside in the Myers house, where the youngest receives familicide encouragement from demonic voices sent by Smith's Grove's head psychiatrist, an old friend of Dr. Loomis. Since Mikey My still has babies on the brain, he electrocutes and slashes his way through the Strodes and company in search for the lost infant. The cult conspiring around I Love You Man and the last remaining Strodes control Michael My with an ancient rune that makes him murder blood relatives because of an astrological phenomenon that occurs whenever the studio wants to make another Halloween sequel. The good guy gang escapes, and depending on the cut, Loomis is either left behind to become Michael's murder manager or his off-screen victim. Goodbye, Donald. It's been a pleasance. Let's take that and rewind it back. Time for a new timeline. Halloween H2O. 20 years after Laurie faced off against her brother, she's living under a new identity at a California prep school as a teacher and overprotective mom of Josh Hartnett. Heartthrob ditches out on a class trip to party with Michelle Williams and his build the body count buds. But Mickey Mantle has killed Loomis's nurse and her neighbor Gordon Levitt and uses the doc's old files to track Laurie down just in time for the holidays. A slit throat here, a smashed leg there, someone gets turned into a human lampshade, Janet Leigh makes a cameo, and LL Cool J almost gets gunned down by Laurie's boyfriend before he gets a patented pick-me-up from the Mac-O-Lantern. Heartthrob and his girlfriend escape, so Laurie and Michael can cat and mouse their way around campus. She almost punches his death clock, but LL Cool J blocks her, so she steals the coroner's van and awaits the inevitable reawakening so she can smash him, crash him, bash him, and finally decapitate her brother once and for all. Halloween Resurrection. Turns out Miley Cyrus pulled the old switcheroo on Laurie, and decapitating an innocent man drove her to madness. Even in the asylum, she's always prepped for her brother's return, but she gets got anyway. Life work complete, Mike passes on his knife and retires to his childhood home. Little does he know, Tyra Banks is using his place as location shoot for her reality show, and this week the models are challenged to live stream via body cams, pose with planted props, and either serve up smushed face chic or avant-garde impalement. Producer Busta Rhymes models his own mechanics jumpsuit and Captain Kirkface, but Mike wins the first fashion face-off before canceling Tyra. Somebody call Rita Ora! But Busta super smizes in to save the day when our cyber-stalked final girl gets cornered in a burning garage. So to be clear, it is series canon that Busta Rhymes killed Michael Myers. End of timeline 2. Remake. Halloween 2007. Hellbilly babyface Michael Myers tortures animals while being abused by his stepfather, half-sister, and school bullies before he simply snaps, smashing, throat slashing, and knife gashing his way through the malls. Dr. Loomis McDowell tries to groove his way into Michael's mind, but the boy retreats behind paper masks, causing his mother to trigger warning herself and leave baby Laurie to get adopted by the Strodes. Years later, when his asylum guards decide to trigger warning a female patient in his room, Big Michael escapes, killing those guards, plus Danny Trejo, finds a mechanic to kill for his sweet jumpsuit, and then heads off to Haddonfield to find his baby sister. Much of the plot remains the same, only this time the Strodes get got too. Michael Myers dominates the sibling rivalry until Loomis shows up to save Laurie, getting eye-gouged for his troubles, and the chase continues, ending with them both over the balcony and Laurie shooting her brother seemingly dead. Halloween 2, 2009. Necro-curious corpse couriers crash their mortician mobile into a cow, waking up Brawny Man Myers, and he escapes, seemingly to chase down an injured Laurie at an abandoned hospital, but that ends up being a dream, mostly, I think. Laurie's emotional trauma really brings the hellbilly out of her, as she whines, screams, and cusses her way around the screen. Dr. Malcolm McLoomis is book touring a scandalous tome that reveals Laurie's parentage, causing her to angst spiral her way into Rocky Horror cosplay. Meanwhile, Miguel Merez slaughters his way through a family farm perform in a strip club on his way home to Haddonfield, where he promptly kills all of Laurie's friends, ends Annie, and kidnaps her out to a cabin in the country to have a ghost hallucination family reunion while Loomis tries to reason with him. As soon as they get a clear shot, the SWAT team turns milk mooers into Swiss cheese, and after Laurie picks up his weapon of choice, they gun her down too for good measure. With Zombies version dead and buried, it's time to go green. Halloween 2018. 40 years after Michael Myers killed 3 teens before getting shot out a window and captured, he once again escapes during a prison transfer, tracking down the true crime podcasters with his TJ Hooker mask at a gas station, killing them and then the mechanic, stealing that jumpsuit so he can murder in style, before heading homeward once more. Meanwhile, everyone's projecting their own motives onto Mac the Knife, but he doesn't care about his new psychiatrist's fascination with his silent mind, or Laurie Strode's Sarah Connor-level vendetta that's estranged her from her daughter Judy Greer and granddaughter, a teen whose friends we can briefly care about before watching them die. No, the boogeyman is in it for the love of the game, blending in with trick-or-treaters and taking out whoever's path he crosses before getting roundabout corralled to Laurie's edge-of-town compound. After an extended cat-and-mice battle between 3 generations of Strode women, the ladies trap Michael in Laurie's bomb shelter basement before blowing her house completely to bits. Halloween Kills. Picking up right where we left off, Laurie again heads to the hospital for retcon flashbacks, while Mike Mai takes no time getting down to his dirty murder work. He fights his way through fire, then through the firefighters, bashes and bulbs Laurie's neighbors, scares trick-or-treaters out of their silver shamrocks, fillets the last film's extras, and unalives some legacy characters. The rest of the town becomes aware of Myers' return, slowly building into an angry mob led by Tommy Doyle, now played by the geek from Breakfast Club all grown up. They mistakenly turn their hostility onto another escaped mental patient, presumably named Oswald Cobblepot, who gets scared into trigger warning himself from the top floor of the hospital onto the parking lot. Mackie Mylar heads home, murder tableauing a couple of Johns, and letting loose on a couple of Lonnies, before being lured out into the street by Judy Greer, only to get surprised surrounded by an angry mob, armed with the closest thing they could reach in their kitchen when they got the text to come kill Michael. But according to conjectured exposition, with every kill, Mike's power increases, and he systematically slaughters the entire mob, including Tommy Michael Hall, before returning to his childhood bedroom to stab Judy G and escape into the night. Halloween ends. Picking up, 3 years later, a young man hilariously homicides a shit-ass kid in front of his own parents. Accidentally, of course, but quickly becomes the town pariah nonetheless, even getting bullied by the band geeks. Kid killer meets cute with Laurie's granddaughter, and the two have a no one else understands us whirlwind romance as the surviving Strodes have become somewhat pariahed themselves for Michael's misdeeds. Meanwhile, Michael Myers has become Pennywise, living in the sewer and luring the boy killer down to do his bidding, infecting his eyes with his murder magic, and training him in the art of the stab, practicing on some side characters. The next generation eventually steals the OG's mask and goes all out on some band geeks at the junkyard, his very own mother, and the local shock jock conspiracy theorist. Laurie has wizened up to his serial killer sickness, tricking Mock Michael with a trigger warning fake-out, resulting in an all-out brawl. The kid killer trigger warnings his own throat, making his girlfriend think that her grandmother just murdered her boyfriend, causing a very temporary rift. Quickly resolved after the real deal shows up, remasked and ready to rumble. Laurie and Michael stab it out, absolutely destroying Laurie's kitchen. And it looks like mutually assured destruction until the granddaughter arrives to save Lee Curtis. After the family takes the time to slit all the major arteries, his corpse gets body surfed by the town into some farm equipment that mashes him into mushy meat mulch. And finally, Michael is dead for real, for good, forever. So coming in with a second to spare, that was the entire Halloween franchise in under 13 minutes. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Michael Myers moment is. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me at Spooky Ghostess on Twitter, and join me next time for another spooky review. Happy Halloween, and boo for now! Oh.